Our spoken prayer and a time of silence, we will sing together hymn number 123, Spirit of Life, which is also printed in your order of service. We'll sing it first in English and then in Spanish. Today we're talking about bravery and taking risks. So this morning I offer this prayer for risk-taking. You'll hear lines from our favorite hymn. Spirit of life, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Let my compassion for others and my love of others be a life force that calls me to action when I see injustice. Even if I do not always stick up for myself, give me the courage to stick up for those I love. Let me be fierce in my love for them, in my protection of them. Spirit of life, may my roots hold me close. May I be grounded in community when I choose to step out into the world, sometimes beyond my own comfort zones. May I remember that I am known and loved and supported by friends and family and kindred spirits. May I have a safe harbor to return to when I am through being brave. May I collapse into that warmth and armchair of acceptance at the end of a hard, brave day. May I feel held even on the days I cannot muster any courage at all. Spirit of life, may my wings set me free. May I not worry so much about what they say about me or think about me or whisper about me. May I sense my own freedom when I outgrow the boxes I have been put into, when I peel off their labels. May I be fearless. May I put my whole heart into the things I care about. May I flourish by living fully and standing up for what I believe in, including myself. Spirit of life, come to me. Come to me. Amen. By Clarissa Pinkola Estes, We Were Made for These Times, or Letter to a Young Activist During Troubled Times. And you've heard it before, but you'll understand why we need to hear it again. And it's a little long, so just settle in. My friends, do not lose heart. We were made for these times. I have heard from so many recently who are deeply and properly bewildered. They are concerned about the state of affairs in our world now. Ours is a time of almost daily astonishment and often righteous rage over the latest degradations of what matters most to civilized, visionary people. You are right in your assessments. The luster and hubris some have aspired to while endorsing acts so heinous against children, elders, everyday people, the poor, the unguarded, the helpless, is breathtaking. Yet I urge you, ask you, gentle you, to please not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times. Especially, do not lose hope. Most particularly because the fact is that we were made for these times. Yes, for years we have been learning, practicing, been in training for, and just waiting to meet on this exact plane of engagement. I grew up on the Great Lakes and recognize a seaworthy vessel when I see one. Regarding awakened souls, there have never been more able vessels in the waters than there are right now across the world. And they are fully provisioned and able to signal to one another as never before in the history of humankind. Look out over the prow. There are millions of boats of righteous souls on the waters with you. Even though your veneers may shiver from every wave in this stormy royal, I assure you that the long timbers composing your prow and rudder come from a greater forest. That long-grained lumber is known to withstand storms, to hold together, to hold its own, and to advance regardless. In any dark time, there is a tendency to veer toward fainting over how much is wrong or unmended in the world. Do not focus on that. There is a tendency, too, to fall into being weakened by dwelling on what is outside your reach, by what cannot yet be. Do not focus there. That is spending the wind without raising the sails. We are needed. That is all we can know. And though we meet resistance, we more so will meet great souls who will hail us, love us, and guide us, and we will know them when they appear. Didn't you say you were a believer? Didn't you say you pledged to listen to a greater voice? Didn't you ask for grace? Didn't you remember that to be in grace means to submit to the voice greater? Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this poor, suffering world, will help immensely. It is not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding to, adding more, continuing. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, second, or 100th gale. One of the most calming and powerful actions you can do to intervene in a stormy world is to stand up and show your soul. Soul on deck shines like gold in dark times. The light of the soul throws sparks, can send up flares, builds signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire. To display the lantern of soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and to show mercy toward others, both are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity. Struggling souls catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it. If you would help to calm the tumult, this is one of the strongest things you can do. There will always be times when you feel discouraged. I too have felt despair many times in my life, but I do not keep a chair for it. I will not entertain it. I will not allow it to eat from my plate. The reason is this: in my uttermost bones I know something as you do. It is that there can be no despair when you remember why you came to earth, who you serve, and who sent you here. The good words we say and the good deeds we do are not ours. They are the words and deeds of the one who brought us here. In that spirit, I hope you will write this on your wall. When a great ship is in harbor and moored, it is safe. There can be no doubt. But that is not what great ships are built for. My friends, do not lose heart. That amazing reading we shared this morning and have shared in the past by Clarissa Pinkola Estes was written as a letter to a young activist during troubled times. These are troubled times. And many of us are striving to be better activists in response to the times and the troubles. Some of us are dipping our toes into activism for the first time. Some of us are hunkering down and tending to our own wounded selves. Some of us are hiding under the covers. Some of us are doing each of these things in rotation, depending on if it is a Monday or a Friday or what the news of the day has been. What I want to say is, take heart. We were made for these times. I know it may not feel like it. It probably doesn't feel like it. That is always the way. Our finest hours are only seen as our finest hours in the rearview mirror, not in the moment. We are only entirely brave in the made-for-TV movie versions of our lives. In the real version, we are scared. We are occasionally disheartened. We often want to give up. In the real version, we are sometimes incapacitated by anger. We tire of our allies. We are unsure of ourselves. We get depressed. So maybe it doesn't feel like we were made for these times, but we were. Because it is during these times that we are most needed. That's all it takes. Not being pure of heart, not being totally prepared, not being constantly brave, just being needed. Maybe we aren't feeling up to the task of answering these troubled times because when we look back over history and who the heroes were, we see the made-for-TV versions of their stories. We see the shining moments, not the middle of the night, deep wrestling moments. It helps me to find stories of people who rose to the occasion in times of trouble, who were not comic book heroes or perfect exemplars or super confident spouters of moral certitude. We need models of people who are just regular people like us. And if we start paying attention, we find these people everywhere. They're everywhere. Their stories are everywhere. Because we just celebrated International Women's Day, I've been thinking about regular, everyday women who rose up even when they were tired, simply because they were needed. I think of all the women who went on strike in Iceland and changed the country. I think of Rosa Parks, who would not give up her seat. I think of Malala, who just wanted to go to school. I think of my sister, who overcame cancer because she had 2 young children to take care of. I think of the Tibetan refugees and Nepalese and Indian women who make recycled silk yarn out of old saris, which allows them to make a living wage to support their families. My stole this morning is made out of that yarn. And this morning I want to tell you the story of a young woman who rose to the occasion during troubled times. And she isn't a contemporary. We have to flip the calendar back to about 400 BC to tell her story. Her name is Esther. In the Jewish tradition, Esther's story is told every year at this time during the holiday called Purim. And although the story of Esther is a serious one with hugely serious consequences for the Jewish people, the tradition is to have some fun while telling this story. Hold on a second. I'm just going to turn down the heat so that annoying noise goes away. It should do that in a minute, and you can just snuggle closer to your pewmate. All right, so it's a tradition to have some fun while telling this story, and that's another thing I want you to hold on to from this morning. Resistance can be fun. It has to be, or we will tire of it too quickly to make a difference. Please do not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times. We have to find our kindred spirits and have fun together and gain strength and sustenance from being together and hearing each other's stories. So this morning, I'm going to need your help to tell the story of Esther, because there are just a few characters in the story, but one is a villain called Haman. And it's customary to make noise and stomp your feet when you hear the name Haman. We're trying to drown out his ugly name because he is such a villain. There are traditional Purim noisemakers. We have a few, but we also have some makeshift noisemakers as well. So you're invited to drown out Haman's name throughout the service. Maybe I should have warned April downstairs. I want to thank my colleague Erica Hewitt for her version of Esther's story. I've mixed together several versions, including hers, for our service this morning. Long ago, in a country called Persia, there was a king named Ahasuerus and a queen named Vashti. Now, King Ahasuerus ruled the largest, strongest kingdom in the world. It stretched from India to Africa. He was a very powerful man, but he was also easily influenced and easily angered. He had some issues around pride and image. Things like crowd sizes mattered a lot to him. One night, King Ahasuerus ordered his wife, the queen, to appear before him at a party so that he could show everyone how pretty she was. When she refused, the king was furious. One of the king's advisors, Haman, teased the king that if word got around, no one's wife would think that she had to listen to her husband. At his urging, King Ahasuerus ordered that his wife be put to death. Poor Vashti. But the king wasn't happy for long without a queen, so he ordered a search throughout the kingdom for a beautiful girl to be his bride. Soon the king's scouts happened upon Esther. And this is also a place where you can help, because tradition says that every time you hear Esther's name, you cheer. Esther was beautiful, gracious, and kind. just what the king was looking for. In no time at all, she was married to the king. Now, Esther was a Jew. The Jews had been driven out of Israel, their home, about 70 years before, and exiled in Persia. Although they did their best to make a living in this strange land, they prayed that someday they would be able to return to their home. Esther's uncle, Mordecai, was the leader of the Jews. Mordecai encouraged her to hide her faith from the king and his advisors. He feared what would happen if the king found out she was Jewish. Now, Haman had by this time become a powerful man in the kingdom, prime minister of Persia. He decided that given his rise to power, it would be appropriate for everyone to bow down to him. But Mordecai refused to bow down to him. Haman was very angry and asked the king to authorize a royal decree to annihilate the Jews. Haman cast lots. He cast lots to determine the day this was to happen. And in Hebrew, the casting of lots is called Purim, which is where we get the name for this holiday. So he cast lots, and it was decreed that on the 13th day of the month of Adar, all the Jews were to be killed in every province and every nation of the land. There would be no place to run and no place to hide. Luckily, Mordecai learned of the decree. He became very worried and turned to his niece Esther to help. "This decree is terrible news," he said to her. "I fear for our people. You must go to the king and try to save the Jews." Poor Esther. She was afraid, for it was forbidden to counsel the king, and her husband still knew nothing of her Jewish identity. Surely he would have her killed if she revealed her true self to him. Okay, I want to pause here for a moment. Don't cheer just for this next part. Because right now we're not thinking of Esther through the lens of history, where we know she is a hero, and we cheer for her. We're thinking about Esther, the regular girl, the young woman, probably just a teenager, actually, who is an orphan, the one who has hidden her Jewish identity for fear for her life, the one who's married to a man who had his last wife killed for an imagined slight, the one who has always taken direction from her uncle, who she trusts, but who is now depending on her. Imagine how Esther must feel in this moment. I doubt it is sure of herself. I doubt it is fearless. I doubt it is full of certainty and faith and bravery. You know what I think she's feeling? She's feeling that people need her. Her people need her. And that's why she was made for a time like this. Because she is needed. And so she steps up. Mordecai tries to encourage her. "It could be that you were made queen for this purpose," he tells her. "Made for such a time as this." Esther, you can go back to cheering for her now. She needs it for this part. Esther was afraid. She hadn't been allowed to see the king for a month. In fact, no one could see him without being invited. Coming before the king uninvited could result in death. But somehow she mustered up her courage and went to see him. Although he was initially angry at her, King Ahasuerus could tell that something was deeply troubling his wife. Softening, he asked her, "What is your request, my queen? Half my kingdom is yours for the asking." "I fear to tell you, my king," she said. "What is your wish?" he asked again. "Whatever you want is yours." But still Esther could not speak, still silenced by her fear. The next night, the king asked his queen again, "What is it you desire? Speak, and it shall be done." Summoning all her courage, Esther spoke. She told the king who she really was, that she was Jewish and had been hiding that from him. "Spare my life and the lives of my people," she begged, "for we have been sentenced to death." The king hardly remembered this request from Haman. And so he grew very angry. He ordered the decree halted and that Haman be put to death instead of the Jews. The Jews throughout the kingdom were saved because Esther was brave enough to plead for them. Purim is celebrated every year by Jewish people around the world. Tradition says that you cheer for Esther and boo Haman. Boo. You also eat cookies called Hamantaschen. They get their own cheer. I hope you'll enjoy some during coffee hour. Thank you to Jody and to Lisa for making some for us this morning. You get cheered for too. It's said that they look like Haman's hat, but you can decide for yourself what they look like. Like so many of the ancient stories, we retell this one, not just to remember the past, but to fortify us for the present and the future. They are living stories. Their lessons can be applied to our current struggles. The next time you are unsure of yourself, but feel called to protect those you love, think about Esther. Channel her courage in that moment. Not because you are fearless, but because you were made for these times. The next time you are called to do battle with the world, with the administration, with the insurance company, with your mother, with your own inner demons, with cancer, remember you are safe in the harbor. But that is not what great ships are built for. As we end our Purim service in honor of Esther, I'd like to invite Harriet forward to share a spoken word piece that she has written for this special holiday and for these troubled times. I told you this was a living story, and in this way it continues to take form.
And some of the singers will help me, and if you catch on to the song, the refrain, please join in. Esther is the morning star in the middle of Adar. She rises sparkling, shining bright, even in the full moonlight. No matter how cold the wind, no matter how dark the skies, spring will come and women will rise. Try it again. No matter how cold the wind, no matter how dark the skies, spring will come and women will rise. No matter what hateful Haman rules the nation, no matter how dire the situation. When one member of a tribe, misunderstood, feared, and despised, stands up and throws off her disguise, we start to see minorities add up to majorities that can overthrow authorities. Mexicans, Muslims, blacks, and Jews, refugees, Sikhs, and Hindus, immigrants, LGBTQs, poor people of all shades and hues, including rednecks with the blues, native people colonized, exploited, trashed, romanticized. First Nation tribes unite and cry, we're all downstream, and water is life. And fire is powerful. No matter how cold the wind, no matter how dark the skies, spring will come and women will rise. Everybody who's been robbed of homes and hopes and decent jobs, who got no cushion, no degrees, but lots of disabilities, addictions, convictions, pre-existing conditions, unfulfilled dreams, abandoned ambitions, thousands, hundreds of thousands of vets who long for peace, scarred by wounds we cannot see, survivors of abuse, rape, slavery, speaking out and breaking free. When even one member of a tribe, misunderstood, feared, and despised, stands up and throws off his disguise, we start to see minorities can add up to majorities that overthrow authorities. And thanks for the heads up, Henry Thoreau, in case you forgot or didn't know. No travel ban on walking, yo, on the beach, on the streets, in the heart of Washington, D.C. Wherever we are, it will be so fine to walk for our climate, April 29. No matter which Haman rules the nation, no matter how bleak the situation, no matter how cold the wind, no matter how dark the skies, spring will come and women will rise. Spring will come and women will rise. Spring will come and women will rise. Thank you.